Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I'm a little bit, let me just make sure that I understood the question to my colleagues, the answer to my colleague's question when she just asked, in essence, I want to paraphrase what you asked, but I kind of wrote down about the estimate amount of additional financial liability because of the administration's decisions to delay or end UCA. And the answer was, no, we don't know.
Yes.
Let me just make sure, am I hearing then that this decision was made with no consideration of what the price to the taxpayer could be?
The only estimate I'm aware of is the one prepared by the department of the $12.3 billion in liabilities, assuming they could handle waste starting in 2020. I think under the new policy, there's uncertainty about when waste handling could commence. So there are no new estimates that I'm aware of how much the liability would be.
Don't you understand that that could be a little troubling, that a decision is made that could have potentially a serious financial implication, and that doesn't seem to be a priority? Isn't that a little troubling to you? I mean, I'll tell you what, I just got, that was not my question. I was just flabbergasted that a decision that could mean potentially serious implications to taxpayers, and that's not something that's been, obviously it's not on the front burner. So these decisions are being made in a vacuum, in theory, without even, I guess, it's not a big priority, it's not a really important issue, how much it could cost to the taxpayer. Isn't that a little troubling?
I would imagine the Blue Ribbon panel that examines alternatives will be looking at costs.
Is that in the charge? Is that one of the main charges of the Blue Ribbon panel, to look at the cost? Could you let us know if it is? And if it isn't, why not? If you would. I mean, I don't expect you to know exactly what necessarily is in the charge of that Blue Ribbon panel, even though you might. Is that part of the charge to determine, to know how much it would cost potentially to the taxpayer, short-term, long-term, and where that's weighted in their decision?
If I could.
Once they have a charter, we'll certainly try to help
All right.
you with
The charter for the panel has not been
established?
Has not been established.
All right. Well, I would just hope then that is part of the charge.
I understand, sir.
Great. Thank you. Now, to my question is, I learned recently that, I did not know this, that I guess those whose utilities companies use nuclear, I guess there's a small surcharge charged, and it's, let me see, it's 0.1% per kilowatt hour. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it's $22 billion, out of which $766 million comes from Floridians alone. Now, here's the question. If in fact it looks like, Yucca Mountain's going to be closed, and nuclear power doesn't seem to be a huge priority, is the administration going to come forward with a proposal to eliminate that fee that people are paying, or at least to lower it?
Well, the fund was set up to provide a fund for the department to use to implement the disposal of these materials. The department's still committed to meeting its obligations. It's just going to take a different policy path, and the fund would be used to fund that policy path. And until we know what that policy path is, we won't know exactly what the needs of from the fund will be.
Right, but we do know that obviously we don't know how much the new policy path may cost, is from where I'm hearing. That's obviously not a big priority for this administration, how much the taxpayer might be hit again. But in the meantime, wouldn't it make sense, as opposed to just continue to charge this surcharge, to at least postpone it until you have an idea of how much that's going to cost? In other words, this issue of just charging people, regardless of knowing how much it's going to cost, maybe it'll be more, maybe it'll be less, shouldn't there be some consideration to those who are paying for something that's not happening before you just continue to charge them?
If I could answer that, Mr. Meck, I think submitted into the record 2 letters that the department recently received from the Nuclear Energy Institute and also the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners addressing that same issue. And the department is in receipt of those letters, and I really can't comment on what the response to the letters will be. But we're certainly aware of the issue, and those letters have made the same request that you've made, sir.
And again, I don't mean to be harsh on you, but again, it's a little bit hard to hear when we're now at $1 trillion deficit and climbing. I think there's got to be a realization that this is not our money, this is taxpayers' money, and that should always be in the forefront of any discussion of any decision made. And I know that you would agree with that. Sometimes it looks like that's not the case. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.